Hello, everyone. Jim Dubois here. We have our guest should be coming on in a moment. So glad you're here. We are going to be talking about $1 million talk. Bear with me. We're going to have our guest come on here with us, Miss Christina, of course, and there she is. Okay. Well, it is 12 o'clock, right on the dot. Hey, Christina, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. You're a little bit sideways, but you were better before. There you go.
There we go.
All right, so let's jump into this here. So again, welcome to the $1 Million Facebook group, Pressure Washer Window Washers live. Here we are. In this particular live stream, we're gonna go pretty deep into some stuff. How we took Squeegee Pros to the multi-million-dollar mark. How do we break seven figures? How do we go into multi-million? What does all that look like? That's what we're going to be talking about here today. And, I was replying to somebody somewhere earlier this morning. They were asking about, how do I get to $1 million? And it's not easy, but it's not hard when you know the building blocks on how to put the pieces of the puzzle together, I guess is how it would be. So what I want to do today is first introduce you to Christina. Christina is the president of Squeegee Pros, which is my company, our company, because she's also a partner in the company as well. And I'm going to just ask Christina a bunch of questions. And we're just going to see where this goes. And we're going to have a little fun along the way. And so with that, let's jump right into it. Christina, so not to get into your background and all of that, but how long have you been with Squeegee Pros?
16 years.
16 years. And how did I meet you? I guess would be a question a lot of people are wondering. How do you find a rock star person that stays with you for 16 years and becomes president of the company and then a partner? These are what we call A players out there. How did this even occur? Where did we meet? What was your first position? And kind of give us that little bit of that journey. Then we'll go into a little deeper as far as the scaling aspect of the company.
Absolutely. So I had applied for a business to business sales position. I didn't know anything about that. I'd never done business to business sales. I'd been in management prior. And we actually met at a Starbucks because the company was run out of your basement of your house at the time, right? So we met at a Starbucks and you interviewed me and I thought, this guy's crazy. This is not going to happen. But on my first day as a salesperson, I picked up a nail salon, a Dunkin' Donuts, and a Pizza Hut. And on my second day, I picked up 6 Subways. So I could see your vision.
So there was a connection there that, all right, this guy seems to know what he's talking about. And for everyone listening, when I started Squeegee Pros, I started in the storefront space, window cleaning only, storefronts. What all do we do today? What are our divisions? What does that look like today?
So we have residential. We have small commercial, which is route work. That's reoccurring routes that we do monthly, twice a month, weekly. Then we have larger commercial. That would be 4 stories and below. We dabbled in some high rise, but that's not our forte. And then, of course, we have our Christmas lighting division.
All right. So that's pretty much our platform. So for those listening, so we started in storefronts, built that to where it's at today, which I think we were up to 3,500 storefronts and we got knocked back due to COVID. And now we're still at the 3,000 mark and building back up from there. On the residential side, to give a little background here, we're what, plus or minus 500 homes a month that we're cleaning?
Absolutely. In the busy season, closer to 6, and we have about 40 employees on staff at any given time.
All right. So this kind of gives you a framework where we're at today. But let's go back in time. Let's go back 16 years ago when you first came on. We didn't know the stuff that we know now.
No,
And
we sure did.
it was a fight. It was a struggle. Some people look at you, they look at me, and they're like, well, they got the magic touch, and they can just, they're just one of those kind of people. Far from it. Far from it. So when we look at this, what would you say was missing in the company or broken in the company or even needed in the company in order to start getting this platform in place that the company could launch off of to break a million and multi-million? What comes to mind? Missing, broken, needed? What does that look like? Or did that look like?
We needed a lot of more systems and policies and procedures, and not just have them. We had to enforce them, right? We had to learn that line between management and being a friend. That was a hard line to learn. Our people, our staff, and just having the right people in the right seats on the bus, like that's super important. And that was a hard lesson learned.
Yeah, and the buzzword came out a few years ago, systems, and we really had no clue what systems were. We kind of knew what we needed, but it's one thing to kind of know what you need. It's a whole nother thing to put the how-to behind it. And that's where the slippage in so many businesses begin to occur, because without the building blocks, the step by steps, and knowing exactly how to kind of connect those dots, it's almost like you just can't get traction to grow. It's almost like you hit like a certain point, right, in your business, and then it's a fight. It's a struggle. How do I break through? So, what was it that we did? If we look at systems, if we look at people, what was it that we did to start kind of breaking through that wall?
There's a couple of things. So, we hired the financial coach, right? So we learned more about our numbers. We, visited conventions and learned from some of the best, right? And we even went outside of our industry to seek mentorship so that we could become that, you want to be a Fortune 500 company, you got to think like a Fortune 500 company, right? So, and then every time something would break down, we'd build a system, right? And so that way that if something wasn't working, we would go back to the system and tweak the system. It was a learning process, and we're still learning. We don't know it all.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you know, when I'm talking to coaching clients, or I'm just talking to people, and I talk to so many people around the country, I think you kind of nailed it on the head. They're at a point in their business where there may be a quarter million, a half a million, whatever that might look like, and they've got a couple, three, four, five people, that make up their team. They're in a good place, but they're stuck. It's like, okay, I'm still in the truck, or I'm still in and out of the truck. Uh, I'm sometimes on the phone, but I do have somebody that answers the phones, but they're not really, they could be a lot better. How do I, what do I do about that? To the systems word, I think a lot of people get kind of hung up on the systems word. I want to take a, I want to take a minute on that, because I think a lot of the guys that are listening right now, we're solution finders. That's kind of our nature. I know that's my nature. So when there was something that wasn't quite working right, or I was pulling my hair out, or I was frustrated about something with my business, I would just try to find a solution. And I didn't really know if I was doing it. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just trying to put out fires, right? And fix these problems that were happening. But little did we know through this process, right? Little micro systems were coming into play. And with that, the systems that now support the company have really become the foundation, and it has put us in a place where, whether it's us or so many people that are out there, to start getting that traction to grow. So when you look at the word systems at Squeegee Pros, what were the connecting dots that, like, what was the catalyst when it came to systems implementation, that, what comes to mind that was a breakthrough for us with this system or that system, or part of that system, to where that traction did begin to occur?
Well, a couple of things. So, like, a system isn't just like build it once, right, and that's it. So we broke down every job position, right, and every job position has a system. It also has a manual. It gets tweaked every quarter as things change. So breaking it down, like not just an overall company manual, we broke it down very detailed to every job scope.
And because of that, we began to understand kind of what was missing in the business, what was needed in the business. Problems would occur, little things like that. And we would just like, all right, we got to fix that. Now let's document that. And now let's make it policy.
Correct. Correct.
And I don't watch the show, but Law and Order, would you say that that was one of the big areas of success to start getting us in a position where we could scale?
Absolutely. Players that you hire, they want structure. They want to know exactly what is expected of them. So having that law and order and a system for them to follow and a manual for them to refer to, like, that was a game changer for us.
Okay. Then you were talking about the people, getting the right people on the bus. And I know when I go back in my early days before you, and even when you came on board, we still didn't know this stuff. We still didn't really understand what we were doing. I mean, if I look at this for a moment, what year would you say, or how many years ago would you say things started to really, we were starting to figure this game of business out? I mean, we'll never have it figured out, but we were really starting to understand the the basis of being in a position to reduce frustration and to grow revenues. When did these systems start to connect, I guess, is what I'm trying to ask.
I would probably say within the past 7 to 10 years. The thing, we had it more dialed in pre-COVID, and then when COVID hit, that kind of tore everybody's world upside down, right? So then you kind of had to go back to the drawing board and tweak things, and now we're smoothed back out again. So I mean, recently, within the past, 5 to 7 years.
All right, so systems is a big one, and most of us already know that, but you got to take the time to sit down and put it together, and it took a while, and we don't even know what systems actually meant, and what was the breakdown of different systems, and then the subsystems of those systems, and then the microsystems of each of those subsystems. And we have a whole thing on that, and we'll do future live streams on breaking all this down as well. So, but the other word that you used was the people. And it is the people and the processes, there's no doubt about it. But where would you say we were going wrong in the beginning with people, and how did it turn to where we were going right?
That line between friendship and being a leader, that's a hard line, right? Um, so tweaking that and becoming a leader being a leader versus a boss, right? Not being a dictatorship, not being that micromanager, letting go, trusting, changing our company culture, and changing our employee retention. Besides me, 16 years, Wes, 17 years, Jim Belize, 14 years. We have some here now, 7, 8 years. If we wouldn't have expanded at the end of last year, everybody wouldn't be here a year or longer. So all of our employees are, we have great employee retention, and that's due to our company culture.
Yeah, and I think for those listening, that's a big one right there. Because as I was saying before, when you start building in the systems, and it's not like you have to have this massive project in front of you. You just start right where you're at, right? If I'm working with a client, we start right where they're at, and we just clean up the mess. We just, I'll use those three words. We find out what's missing in their business, what systems are needed. Let's bring those up to speed right now. What's the people look like in their organization? And are they the right people? Are they the right fit? As you said, get the right people on the bus. That's a huge game changer. I mean, in my early days, if they could fog a mirror, I would hire them. then I would make them my friend, thinking I was doing everything right, right? If they're my buddy, well, they're going to show up for work. They're going to do a good job because they're my buddy. And I did that for years. And it finally began to dawn on me that this is not working because the revolving door was still there. So once we started fine tuning our hiring models, and once we really started putting people through hoops to make sure the right person is coming into the right position, that's when things began to change. But with that, when you're, I think you'll agree with me, when you're focused on finding that A player, and I had no idea who you were when I met you at Starbucks, right? I mean, I kind of knew who you were through a referral, but I didn't know you as a person. I knew you had some management experience in a retail industry and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't know your demeanor. I didn't know your personality type. It wasn't a good interview like we do today. And yeah, there was luck involved. There's no question about it. But then when I look at myself, when you came on board, even before you came on board, and as I was starting to hire more and more people in those beginning years leading up to you, you used the word before, I was a micromanager. And I know that stunted my growth. I was afraid to let go. Anybody feel that way? I was afraid. I had to have my shoulders over everybody, looking to see what they're doing, having my hands in everything and all that stuff. And the A player, the B player, A player wannabe, that's not what they want. Because what they feel like is, well, the owner doesn't trust me in the work I'm doing. And I know we've had these conversations, and that was me. And then I let go. Then I really let go. I mean, I don't even have an office at the office anymore. That's where the confidence was built, because the systems, the processes, learning how to bring the right people into the business, they run the company now, right? Like, yes, you're at the office right now, but what is your role today? You're president of the company. What is your role today?
I oversee the systems, right? There's daily reports, so they just turn in their daily report to me, so I'm reviewing that. I'm not in the day to day. I'm not answering the phone for customers. I'm not sending out estimates. I'm not getting involved in any of that. I'm working on the business, not in the business.
Yeah, and that's huge. And I'm going to come back to that, but when we look at the people, I mean, when I look at Brian, who's our VP of operations, he came in, I was after him for 9 months at looking for a new supervisor for Squeegee Pros. Because later in the years, right, recently in the last 7 to 10 years, we started to kind of like dial in who we need to be looking for. It's almost like we have a customer avatar, but we also have when we're recruiting, there's an avatar of person that we're looking for as well. I didn't have that before. Like I said before, if I would just throw the spaghetti up against the wall, if it's stuck, I would hire the person. But once we started to change that game, a transformation in the company began to occur. And just like bringing Brian in from the outside, no experience with anything that we do, but he had supervisory experience, very good with his hands, tinkering, engineering, that type of thing. And he was a good fit for what I felt for the role that we were looking for to fill the supervisory role. And absolutely magic when he came on board. I mean, he literally, but with one arm behind his back, he took our residential division and took it to multi-million by itself. And all these things that we're talking about. The people absolutely make the difference to get you to break through that $1 million mark. Because if you don't get the people and you are not implementing the systems based on where you're at, that slippage is going to occur. You're just going to keep fighting and fighting and fighting, trying to get to that next level. And these were big learning points for us, right? The people, the systems. But let's go a little deeper. Um, if you look at the picture of Squeegee Pros today, what would you say our three biggest wins have been to take us to where we are today, or to get us from an unstuck, or to get us where we were stuck, to get unstuck, and to start that trajectory up? What would you say the three biggest wins are that made that happen for us? Because I'm sure a lot of people listening right now would love to know.
Our marketing plates, we have a lot of those. We have a lot of spinning marketing plates. Some of those are outside the box thinking. Again, the people, our company culture, like that employee retention, that sets you up for growth and scale. Our other biggest wins would be, again, going back to systems too, right? Like if something starts to break here, the first thing I do is go look what's wrong with the system, begin to dive into the system and see what's wrong. So just having everything into place, like really started our growth and our journey for scaling.
Okay. So you said one there that is probably got some attention pretty quickly when you said marketing plates. Obviously, revenue comes from leads that turn into jobs. How many leads would you say come into Squeegee Pros a month on the residential side?
600 plus. Could be more or
So,
less.
I'm sorry, say one more
Could be
time.
more or less depending on the season. Because we have like a marketing dial. So we turn the dial up, turn the dial down as needed.
So I can see some talking points coming out of this on future live streams, a lot of these things that you're talking about here. But let's go back to the marketing plates, or the marketing arsenal that we call it. When we kind of really break that down, not to go too deep into this on this particular live stream, but what does that look like? What would you say that looked like for us in order to, I mean, how do you go to 600 leads per month? How did we do that?
Well, first, you have to know your numbers and you have to track your marketing. If you're on this live stream and you're not tracking your marketing, you're doing something wrong, right? So we track everything from the lead that comes in to the lead that converts to a job. What is your conversion rate? What's working, what's not working. We run a monthly marketing report so we know exactly what is working. And if something's not working, we take that money and put it into a different pool of money, a different marketing plate. If one's out doing the other, we'll move that money from one to another. But again, it all goes back to tracking that marketing so that you know what's working and what's not working.
So what you're saying in so many words is we take all these different marketing mediums that we have that we feel are conducive to the industry to generate leads. And we have a number of them, hence the lead count that we get each month. But because we're tracking everything that's occurring in the world of marketing for Squeegee Pros, we're able to see the winners, those lead, I call them lead generating levers, right? We can see which ones are winning for us, but we also see the ones that are breaking even for us, and we see the ones that are the losers. We're just not pulling in enough leads to maybe pay for the campaign. But with that, there's what's the word? Grand slam marketing plans.
Right.
There's one or two that every company should have that just kill it when it comes to driving in leads. So I think if we look at marketing, where a lot of people make the mistake is, one, and I did this. This was something I did in my early days. I hired a flyer delivery company, and I was putting out flyers myself, and it was just as many flyers as I could get out there to see what would happen. I had no system behind who was getting those flyers. In fact, I would write flyers and say, the crazy guy Jim Dubois has got a special offer for you. Call this number, and here's the price, or whatever it was. It was like a 8.5 by 11 page flyer, and I would put them in 2,000 square foot homes, 1,500 square foot homes, and I would just do all these neighborhoods, not knowing and not understanding. And I'm like, I'm not getting any calls. What the heck? Because I didn't understand my customer avatar, and that began to change. But going back to the losers, the break evens, the winners, and the grand slams. And we're able to see all of this on that marketing tracking report. And where people go wrong sometimes is if they're break even on the marketing medium that they're using, where they're like, well, that didn't work. What they fail to realize is if you're doing things right and you're bringing in what we call transactional frequency, well, you're going to service that customer 5, 10, 20, 40 times, right? So on the front end, it might be a break even, but in the long run, in the end, you're going to probably win big if you're doing it right. And there's a lot of things that make up the word right when it comes to conversion, when it comes to the customer job average, price point, when it comes to the frequency of how often you're doing it, all things that we'll be talking about in this Facebook group as time goes on and what all that means. I cannot even tell you. I was talking to a client yesterday morning and on the previous call, and he's a sizable company. He's deep into the six figures, but within 15 minutes, I found him another $600,000 in revenue that was just going out of a big, big hole in his bucket. Super easy to fill. Did not even it didn't cost him anything to find that money, and it's all strategy driven. So even the losers, a lot of people, if they're doing, and I won't mention names, but if they're doing something and they're not really getting the lead flow that they thought they would get, well, one, like you're saying, they're not tracking it. So do they really know, or are they just going off by gut, which most people do? But even if whether it's gut or even if they're tracking it, a lot of times they just give up on that marketing medium. What do we do if we have a marketing medium and it's not quite performing right? How do we tinker with that to see what we can do with it?
Test, test, test. We do all kinds of A/B tests, whether it be the headline, the picture, where your avatar customer is, right? Maybe you're not in the right neighborhoods. Maybe you're not stack dominating your market, right? You guys know what that is? That's something that we do. So we tweak it. We tweak it and we test it. And you're right. And then we talk about our customer lifetime value.
And when you start connecting all these little dots, right? This is the secret sauce, if you will, that really started getting us on the right highway to break that $1 million mark and then take us to the multi-million-dollar mark and then some. So this is thank you for this. This is great stuff. So all right, president of Squeegee Pros, you're separated from the day-to-day, the systems, the processes, the people run the company, you just oversee all that. So what are you working on now in the business?
Scaling and acquisitions.
Ah, two of my favorite words. That's great. That's awesome. So when we look at that, what would you say is next for Squeegee Pros? What's next? It kind of goes back to what you're working on, but what's that? What do you want these things to turn into? What's next for the company?
Well, we already have 2 locations, so I want to have more locations within the next 5 years. That's,
Beautiful.
yeah, that's
Beautiful. So, all right. Um, the people that are on the live stream right now, you talking to them, what would you say if you were to break this down into 3, 4, 5 steps? What do they need to focus on inside their platform of their company, wherever they might be at right now? What should they put their attention on first to break that $1 million mark, or if they're at that $1 million mark, to get to the next $1 million mark?
they need to do a deep dive into their company, what they're doing wrong, what they're doing right. Start building out those systems. I was coaching a client earlier this week, and I told her to document everything that she does so she can get on paper, right? So that she can teach someone else to do it, to take that hat off of her head. So just start building out your system one by one. Don't get overwhelmed. Just start building out your admin system. Start building out your technician system. Start building out your supervisor system, your marketing system. So every little thing, start building out your system one by one.
So that, see, SYSTEM, that six-letter word, that's really the magic formula in order to begin that separation from the day to day, letting your people come in, the right people coming in, the A player people coming in, because they understand what the processes are inside the system. They know what to do. You mentioned earlier on in the beginning of the live stream how there's accountability reports and things like that. These would be things that you, our Vice President Brian, look at. I'm under the assumption of, and I'm going to expand on this a little bit to keep this ship driving forward.
Yes, the daily reports. Is that what you bleeped
Yeah,
out? I apologize. I didn't hear everything that you were able to say.
the daily and weekly.
Yes. So we have daily and weekly accountability reports. So we review those, whether it's the daily report or the weekly report, and it kind of just keeps our thumb on the pulse. So we're not hands in there. We can just see everything at a glance, and then we address what we need to address.
Got it. So those of you listening, we've taken this last half hour, and it's really been a pretty high level conversation that we're having. There's a lot of in betweens here. There's a lot of um, how to involved here, that it's hard to get into these kinds of things with a live stream like this. But what I wanted to do today is just one, have you meet Christina. And she's real. She is someone that has been incredibly instrumental in taking us to where we are today. There's no question about it. Could not have done it without her. There's no question about that. And just to kind of hear it from her, what it takes, what it's about. It's not hard, like I said, but it's not easy. It's just knowing those in between steps, taking the building blocks and putting this puzzle piece together one step at a time. But it starts with taking your platform, taking your foundation, where you're at right now, and identifying what's missing, identifying what's needed or broken, and fixing those things. Because once you fix those things and you start and you have the proper how to's in front of you, then you'll get that traction to grow. And then eventually that word grow will turn into the word scale. So, Christina, how would you describe the value of mentorship in coaching? I know we've had a couple.
Um, you can't put a price tag on that. Learning from the best, learning from people that's been there, but we also learn from the people that aren't as big as us yet, right? So you can't put a price tag on that. Just having someone to help you through all those trials and tribulations so that you don't have to face them and learn the hard way like we did, like there's a price tag for that. It's invaluable.
Yeah, it is invaluable. When I look back on the journey of Squeegee Pros over the last couple of decades, I mean, I know I wanted it so bad. I was just Nothing was going to stop me from getting. I wanted to get to that $1 million mark. I wanted to get to that $2 million mark. I remember once we broke 1 million, it's like, all right, we got to get to 2 million. Got to get to 2 million. And how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? I remember these conversations, and we continued to reach out to people outside the industry, to start putting that puzzle piece together to get there, and then to continue going on beyond that. And now we pretty much, and again, I won't say the word figured it out, but now we're kind of on the runway now. We know what we need to do, and it goes back to what I was saying before, and Christina was saying, when you have those systems in place, and you alluded to this before, so Christina, Brian, and I, we meet every quarter. They come to my house. We're here for 8 to 10 hours. It's our leadership meeting. It's quarterly, where we reflect back on the last quarter, the last year, or the new year ahead of us, like on our January 5th meeting. And we get pretty deep in the weeds. Where are we at? Where are we strong? Where are we weak? What do we need to focus on? What do we need to focus on this quarter, this next month, this next year? And that kind of high level talk really starts to set the stage for you. And that's what you need to do, looking at your own company right now. So with that, I want to thank you for coming on board and having this conversation. I'm sure we'll have more of them. And those of you that are listening, if you're ready to put these building blocks together uh, and break that seven-figure mark, break that $1 million mark, or add another $250,000 to wherever you're at right now, or break that $500,000 mark, type in below the word ready. Type in the word ready. And one of my team members will get with you on that, and we'll set up a one-to-one conversation and talk about how we can support you. So a lot of stuff covered on this, more of a bird's eye view, I would say. There's a lot of things underneath there that make all of this connect to come to the targets and goals that we're after. So with that, again, Christina, thank you for your time today on this. I had a blast, and we'll be doing this again. And next Thursday, we'll have another live stream. I have no idea what it's going to be yet, but just stay tuned to the group, the Facebook group, the $1 Million Facebook group. So excited you're here. So excited you're a part of this. We got so much ground to cover over time. So just hang in there, hang tight, and we'll be talking to you soon. Thank you.